Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mind Movement Health Podcast. Today on the podcast, I have a very special guest, Amy VanLiew. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited today because we're going to be diving into all the things that I think as we start to get a little bit older, we need to work on our bone strength, resistance training, and also those topics about osteoporosis and osteopenia, which are really prevalent for, especially for women in this day and age. So before we dive in, can you please share, your background with our listeners?
Okay, real quick. It's kind of strange. I retired, oh my gosh, 12 years ago. I was in corporate world as an engineer, project manager for a company called Hewlett Packard for 26 years. Loved health and fitness, loved strengthening my body, loved, I even taught a boot camp class at HP at lunch for free because I just loved it so much. And I got an offer I couldn't refuse to have an early retirement. So at 50, I flipped and went from engineer to personal trainer, health coach. And I started teaching group classes in my garage, doing personal training in my neighborhood. And most of the people that came to me were over 50. And I started doing the things that I did in my 30s and 40s at HP, the boot camps, the crazy burpees and all that stuff. And I kept hearing, ouch, or Amy, I can't make it today. I hurt my shoulder or my back hurts. And so I started evolving into and learning myself personally, personally, that as we age, we have to do things a little bit different, and it's okay. It is okay. And I just involved, and now I have since 2020, I put most of my membership online, which a lot of fitness professionals did. And now I have a workout membership. It's called Be Healthy Enough, and my main goal is to help women get moving and feel better, even as those aches and pains of age start to creep in, because they're real and we can't stop. And I've been trained, learning with menopause fitness, because that's a big contributor to how we feel as we get older. Osteoporosis fitness, which I think we'll talk about a lot. Corrective exercise, because as we age, we get into some bad habits of how we move. Arthritis fitness, I just got certified. And I just did a course. I love to learn, can you tell?
Mhm.
On the pelvis area. OMG. I learned from a woman called Sarah Duvall, a Pelvis Pro course. It took me a year to get through. And it was like an engineering final. I mean, my brain was about how complicated our pelvis area is. And it kind of makes sense why we start having low back pains or posture problems or hip pains or feet pain. It's all connect or neck pain. You know, as a Pilates instructor, the toe and the neck are connected, and if we're not in balance, it can throw everything out of whack.
Mm,
Okay, that
what a
was
great
that was.
background.
Yeah, I love to learn, and I'm loving my life now.
Yeah, well, that's what I find with my clients too. So, the reason I got into Pilates was due to injury for myself and then working with clients. And we have a very sort of similar crossover with the clients that we serve because I work with a lot of clients that have arthritis or joint replacement and the same sort of thing. The things that were working previously sort of stop working as you start to get older, pushing
Yeah.
your body to the max, running every day, these injuries start to creep in and we don't heal for them as quickly either.
Mm-mm. No, 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 no. I look back at some of the things I've done to my body, and I wish I could have do-overs, because I was beating myself up, and it did take a toll on my knees. And luckily my knees are the only thing right now that's causing problems. But yeah, but bone health, I'm 62, and I didn't get a bone scan until I was when I was 58. They wouldn't do it. My insurance companies in the United States, they won't do it till you're 62. But I was so curious. I was learning about it when I did a risk assessment, one of the canned risk assessments. I was at high risk. My mom had it. I'm thin boned, European descent. And, I did that, and I'm like, okay, I might have it. And sure enough, at 58, I had osteopenia, which is the start of low bone density.
Mm. Now, diving
Yeah.
into bone health, and you sort of mentioned
Yes.
not having a scan until 62, which, from where I work on in sort of my area, it's it's already too late at that point in the sense that you can already
Right,
have osteopenia or osteoporosis or low bone density.
right.
When should people be really starting to think about their bone health?
In their 20s and 30s. And I hate to say that for our audience is like, but it's not too late. But yes, if you've got daughters or nieces, I have two nieces, which I'm harping on all the time now. It's best to start there. I call it the bone building bank. When we're younger, we're building up that bone bank. Things like weight bearing exercises, strength training, impact, calcium, protein, all of those things. We're building up that bone bank. And once we start dropping in estrogen, which starts for most of us in our 30s. Once we start dropping estrogen, which is our bone strength hormone, things start to drop. And we've got to do everything we can if we didn't have that big enough bone bank, or if we have to try to start doing something that we've never done before in our 30s and 40s, it can be harder. So that's when we should start because it does start to drop. And we can lose bone mass, oh, 10% a year. So you really, really got to get on it early. And again, it's not too late. You can start. I just had a client, a member, Carol, and she just told me the other day she just had her DEXA scan every 2 years, and hers had improved, and she's 67. So you can reverse it. You probably can't get it back to where it was, but you can maintain it and you can make it slightly better.
For sure. And I've had clients similar that have been sort of diagnosed
Mhm.
with osteoporosis, just in the osteoporosis range, and they've been able to bring it back into the osteopenia range.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
it definitely, you can change. So if somebody is
Yeah.
listening in and they're sort of like, yes, that's me. I've been sort of diagnosed, I've had my DEXA scan and I've got either osteoporosis or osteopenia. What should they be doing to try to get to the height, the better range or improve their bone density?
Number one, strength training. You've got to put resistance on your muscles. You've got to build up that muscle mass. When you're building up your muscle mass, you're adding tension onto your bones. And bones are, I have a client with osteoporosis that came to me, and she gave me this great analogy that I use all the time. There was this dome out in one of our deserts one time they built to have inhabitants live there, and there was no wind, and they were building trees. And these trees were super weak. They'd just topple over no matter what, as opposed to trees outside, which were growing stronger and stronger because they had that resistance. If the body doesn't need it, it's not going to do it. Like our astronauts that go up into space, they have no gravity, no resistance on their bones. They have to fight really hard because the bones will stop and your muscles will stop because they don't need. Now, I'm not being told to do anything, so I'm just going to get lazy and spend all my resources on something else that I need. So I love that analogy. We've got to put resistance on our body. And we've got to do strength training is number one. And number two would be light impact. And I know this can be a slippery slope because jumping and running and all of that it can be hard on our joints. So we have to do some things maybe just a little differently. But all you need is a couple little heel drops a day and things like that will be very, very helpful. So impact, weight bearing, strength training.
Mm. And if women are listening in and they're like, oh, I'm actually a little bit scared of weight training because maybe they haven't
Yeah.
done it before or
Yeah. Oh my
resistance
gosh.
training in general, you
Or
know,
don't even, yeah,
yeah,
or don't even know what the heck it is. Yeah.
exactly. Where would
Yeah.
you suggest that they start?
Yeah, that's like the number one obstacle that people or barrier that people I'm scared I'm gonna get hurt because in the past they might have tried something. They might have tried to do something they did in their 30s and they hurt their shoulder, they hurt their wrist, they hurt their low back. Start with weight bearing, things like Pilates. You are doing weight bearing exercises. You are putting resistance against your muscles, against your bones. So start with very simple. In fact, this is a must. Anybody that joins me, we start with no weights at all. We go through the typical movements such as a squat or, a shoulder press or, tricep extension or bicep curls with no weight at all, getting the form just right. And then we start adding light weights. Everybody goes, "Oh, come on, it's so boring. I want to start now." But no, it's about slow, consistent movement without getting hurt. Because if you get hurt, you can't work out. Just trying to be patient with your body. Going slow, form, again, those are the big things. Um, then when you're ready, start adding progressive overload or a little bit heavier weights. If you're doing Pilates, you can add things to make the moves a little bit more challenging. Yeah, that's what I.
Yeah, well, that's what I always say to my clients too, that we start gentle, we get good form, and then the progressive overload, as you mentioned, is really key. So I
Yeah.
did an update in an osteoporosis course last year, and the way that the instructor was sort of saying to us is she sort of said, if you go shopping and you pick up shopping bags and they're, say, a kilo in each hand of your shopping bags, and you can do that really easily, then she said, you're not going to be building any bone because it's something that your body can already do.
Yeah,
You have to
exactly.
add more weight than what you're
Yeah,
used to lifting on a regular basis. And sort
yeah,
of referring it back to your shopping bags or, your washing basket or whatever, which may be a kilo or two, when you put it into that perspective of your everyday life, then I think sometimes that can give people just a better picture of, oh, okay, so I've got to lift heavier than that.
yeah. No, no, that's great. Sometimes we'll start out with just their water bottles too, just grabbing them and doing some shoulder presses and things like that. And you carry this around all day. And so if you think about that, then when that gets easy, or you get the confidence, that's the thing that I try to help women is just get that confidence. If you do something with a lighter weight, that it feels easy. And then I'll have a client go, I want you to pick up that 8 pounds. And like, no, 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 no. I had a gentleman that didn't want to pick up 8 pounds. And then he did it and did the movement. Oh my God, that was easy. And so you got to give him the confidence and just and try it because every single time I ask a woman to push herself a little bit or a man, they're so much stronger than they think they are. It's just don't get too excited, don't go too hard, but challenge yourself a bit. That's definitely. My husband bought me a new shirt for Christmas. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. I love that shirt.
Yeah, sounds perfect, really, for this topic as well.
Yes, exactly. Oh, for everything, everything in life, right?
Yeah. And when it comes to the amount of resistance training that someone
Yeah.
should be doing, is once a week enough, twice a week, 3 times a week? What should we be aiming for?
The experts, everybody that I follow, every time I do a Google search or take a course, listen to a podcast, 2 days is all you need of a full body strength. Now you can break that up into lower body, upper body, core. You can break that up into leg day, arm day, things like that. But 2 days, and then the general rule of thumb is 1 to 2 days in between. Because as this woman that I listen to all the time, where you're getting your fitness gains is in the recovery days. You're breaking down your muscle during your strength training, but you're getting stronger during those recovery days. And you're so much better off if you let your body rest and recover and try to do another strong workout than if you try to do it back to back. Rule of thumb, never do it back to back. Never, every day. I would say the exception could be yoga and some Pilates moves because you are using your own body weight. But if you're lifting really heavy, I would say every, 2 to 3 days, give yourself a break. 2 days a week.
Mm. Well, that's what I say to my clients, and it kind of depends on the session we may be doing
Yeah.
in the studio for Pilates too. Because if somebody comes in and say they've done a really big resistance training, the day before, and they've got muscle soreness, then we will focus more on mobilization and just getting
Mhm.
their sort of biomechanics going. But if
Yep.
somebody is relying on their session to be part of one of their resistance training sessions per week, then, I am loading them a lot more because I think
Yeah.
especially in this sort of day and age when people are really busy,
Yeah.
they don't fit in a lot of training sessions. So I'm sure other, fitness instructors find the same thing that when you come to Pilates, we do end up having to work on bone strength, muscle strength, mobility, flexibility, kind of trying to weave everything into that one session.
I know. Posture, balance, everything. I know, I get it. It can get overwhelming. And you can do a lot of that all in the same workout. I mean, you can really get it all done if you're smart about it.
And when it comes to, going to get a DEXA scan, a lot of
Mm.
people might not even know what they are or when they should
Oh my
go.
God.
So, do you have any information about, when's a good time to start thinking about getting a bone scan done?
I would say I would love to have had a baseline. I mean, what I would love and what your doctor's going to prescribe or what your insurance is going to pay for are very two different things. But I would have loved to have known what my bone density was in my 30s and then maybe 30, 40, 50 to see where it was at. And there are some people that have been quite shocked. And low bone density is silent unless you have a fall and you break something. You don't know, you don't feel it. It's called the silent disease. But I would have loved, I would say nowadays, I would recommend start bugging your doctor if you're 50, because that's where I've seen some, and mine was 58. And if you do have a high risk, if you have it in your family, or if you, I'm hearing if people are celiac, I'm hearing, I don't think gluten intolerant, but celiac disease and some other diseases, or you're taking some medications, um, you have some sort of illness that you're having to do maybe chemo or something, I'd start right then and start just demanding it and demanding that you get that done.
Mm. Well, I think that's great
But
advice because I think a lot of people think osteoporosis, they just associate it with people that are like in their 70s or 80s and, oh, grandma had a fall or my auntie had a fall and she broke a wrist or she broke her hip or, and they sort of associate it with someone being older, but not in their 40s or 50s. I don't even
yeah,
think it's on most people's radar potentially at that age.
no, of course not. I mean, it is a disease of aging. It's a disease that, our estrogen as women getting lower, sitting around maybe too much, just in general wear and tear, muscle mass loss, so you're not putting as much resistance or your joints hurt, so you're not getting the impact. So it definitely is related to aging, but yeah, it's not a fun thing at 58. I didn't think I was old, and I was been told my bones are old. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was actually I cried in the car. I'm like, what? Because nothing bad happened to me. I was Miss Healthy. What is going on? And then 2 years later, I ended up, I don't know if you know, but I had breast cancer too. So that was in 2 years ago this week. Oh my gosh, it's coming up. So yeah, you just get demoralized, but it's not a death sentence by any means. I mean, I do it. I did a funny skit on my social media where I wrap myself in that bubble wrap. Do you know what that is?
Yep, you pop it.
Because a lot of people, they come to me and they're terrified to do anything once they've got that diagnosis of osteoporosis. But really, it's not a death sentence. You just have to do things a little bit differently.
And I think that's a really good point because I think sometimes when, I've had a client come in recently and she showed me her T scores and she's like, "Oh, I have osteoporosis, so I'm going to have to like just stop doing the housework and stop, I have to be really careful at Pilates." And I said, "No, I said we do need to be careful. We just need to be a little bit more aware of your movements and what your posture's doing, but we
Yeah.
can definitely start loading you up." And I think that's when if you can work with somebody that has training in the sort of bone strength osteoporosis
Yeah.
field, then that
Yeah.
may also give you a little bit more confidence in your movements, but also they
Yeah.
can work with you to build that progressive program to hopefully get
Yeah.
you back to osteopenia level or at least
Yeah.
improve that sort of bone density.
Yeah, I created for that. I created a program called I have osteoporosis. Now what? And we talk about things you shouldn't do, like deep forward flexion with severe osteoporosis, deep twisting, maybe some pigeon poses. You probably don't want to start taking golf if you're a golfer and you've been doing it forever, by no means don't stop. If you love yoga, if you love Pilates, just go slower. It's that that trauma, that twisting dramatically and that bending forward. If you're doing things, we have to twist to reverse in our car, to do this in the car. We have to bend forward every once in a while. Just be more mindful of it. And just work on those things to keep the rest of your body strong, like nice posture. Stop looking down at your phone. Stop, work on the core, work on building all those muscles that support your spinal column and from all the muscles from your armpit, all your muscles, to be honest with you, and your balance. Because it's not if, but when you trip, we all trip. And if you've got weak bones and you fall, you're more likely to break them. If you've got a strong core and working on all those things that you do in Pilates, you're more likely to catch yourself. My husband tripped the other day, and I said, but he caught himself. I said, "Good core," because he was able to catch himself. So it's just a matter of, it's not a death sentence. Life's not over, but it is hard. I get it. It is scary when you get that diagnosis. Just take a breath, Google, what should I do? Who can help me, talk me through this, and what I shouldn't do, and get started as soon as possible. The strength training, the impact. You're looking at what you're eating, the supplements, the vitamin Ds, calcium, things that you can get through the food. Most of us in the United States don't get enough vitamin D, and probably the same in Australia. Um, so looking at get tested, see if you need more vitamin D. Get that protein, because protein, muscle mass go hand in hand, and muscle mass and bone health go hand in hand. And then, limit the alcohol and the caffeine. And the other thing I learned in my osteoporosis fitness course is colas, and I'm not talking and diet and regular, but the dark colas have a phosphorus, which is bad for our bones. If you want to drink a soda, drink like a 7-Up or a ginger ale or something that's got a lighter color to it. And hormone health. I know hormone topics are very controversial now. My breast cancer was receptive to estrogen and progesterone. I was on hormone replacement therapy because I had osteoporosis or osteopenia, and I knew that estrogen helped, but I had to stop. I am looking at possibly taking that back up again because I know how good it is for my bones, my brain, my heart, all of that stuff.
Mm. Well, you bring up a lot of good points there, and especially around the estrogen. And, as of late, HRT has been a big topic. And I think it is, as you said, great benefits for our brain health, our heart health. And, a lot of the sort of links back to cancer have been debunked. But, it is independent. You do need to go see your doctor. You need to do your full health history. You need to look at your home hormones, and it really needs to be individualized. It's not sort of a one sort of size fits all blanket approach.
No, 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 no. I'm very grateful. I'm seeing the pendulum swing, that more and more doctors are starting to have the conversation
Yeah.
about it again, where they completely stopped for a long, long time. They were prescribing them, and then they stopped, and I think they're really taking a look at each individual now. I'm hoping that my doctor won't, because of my history, but I'm thinking that maybe someday. That's the
Yeah.
one thing I miss the most is my estrogen, progesterone. I had a little testosterone and a little DHEA, and I felt fabulous. No hot flashes. I slept like a baby. My skin was nice.
Yeah.
And my bone health. I had a let's see, a year ago. I won't get another one for another year. So I'm hoping I can make some improvements just with the things we were just talking about.
Mm. And, speaking about having that sort of yearly bone scan, I think it's important to sort of say too that when it comes to building your bone health, that it is going to take time. It's not something
Yeah.
like, if you go to the gym and you're like, oh, I could only lift a 1 kilo sort of weight and doing bicep curls, and then 4 weeks later I can lift 5 kilos. When it comes to our bone health, we're really looking at it over time, and it is probably going to take a good year to sort of lay down some decent bone and see a difference in your scans.
Oh, at least a year. And we only get them every 2 years. And I think that's probably by design because it does take time. Even with the medications that they have out there for bone health, which I hear are also getting better, not as many side effects. It takes a couple years for them to see a reversal with that as well.
Yeah, I have a few clients on a couple of different of medications.
Me too.
I can't remember the name of it. One is the injections or whatever, and they have seen good results. They have had some side effects. So I think that's another thing that, to have that conversation with your doctor. And like anything, even if you do decide to take the medication, then layering in the resistance training and making sure you add that calcium and vitamin D back into your diet, and like adding these just general basic principles in can enhance the benefits that you're getting from the medication as well.
Yeah, no, no, no. Very good point. Even with those medications, it's an overall. You gotta throw the whole thing at it to see the results that you want.
And when you're working with sort of that over 50s population, what are some of the
Yeah.
other things that you like to think about when it comes to their training?
Mm. Yes, mobility and flexibility are a big deal. I see a lot. One of the big menopause symptoms that I didn't realize until the last couple of years is as the estrogen drops, so does the elasticity in our ligaments and our tendons. And so, frozen shoulder is a big deal for us. Like a lot of women come to me, they start become a member and they start working out and they think that they did something and hurt their shoulder, where in reality they're not going to the full range of motion when they're doing their workouts. So they're limiting that movement. So taking time, I call them active recovery days. So when you do a good strength workout the next day, don't just sit around and watch Netflix, do some movement, but gentle, slow move, but taking your joints through the full range of motion, no matter wherever you can be. No points of pain or anything. Don't work around shoulder pain or hip pain, but just moving. And so flexibility and mobility we work on. Posture and balance are the other big things we talk about. I am the posture police. It's like anybody I see, get those shoulders back, get that chin up. And we do posture workouts all the time. Something less intense than, your squats, lunges, when you're doing your rows and your heavy basic strength training moves. But taking time, taking a break from your desk. In fact, if I always say this in all my webinars or podcasts, if you're listening right now, get that chin up, get that spine tall. I call it CSA, chin slightly tucked, shoulders back and down, and abs slightly engaged. And then take breaks while you're working and stretch your chest and work on your upper back muscles and squeezing them and engaging them. It just feels so good. So posture, balance, flexibility, mobility, the core and the pelvis area, don't forget that. I do, when I talked about those 2 strength training days, I also add in one that's all core focused, a good Pilates, something that's slow and controlled, engaging those deep, deep core muscles, the deep hip rotator muscles, the deep muscles within the pelvis that are very subtle and hard to get if you're using momentum. That's what Joseph Pilates, why he did that, because he wanted to take the momentum out so you really engage those core muscles. All of them, not just the abs. And of
Yeah.
course, getting out and walking. If that's one of the big things if you can't do anything today, get outside, go for a walk. If it's cold, walk around the house or bundle up, but getting that vitamin D, being out in nature, being out, moving your body gently. It doesn't have to be this running. It can be just this nice zone 2, that cardio zone where you can talk and you're just relieving some of the stress. We do talk a lot about stress too as we get older, which can wreak havoc on bones and everything else.
Well, that's it. Well, there's physical stress and then there's sort of mental and emotional stress. And combining them all
Yeah.
together, I'll often see clients and they'll be like, "Oh, I've had a back pain flare up, and my workouts are still the same, and I'm not really sure why." And I'll be like, "Oh, was there anything sort of happening, in your life right now?" "Oh, yes. Well, my daughter has been having this happening at school, and my dad's going through treatment for something else." I'm like, "Yeah, it's stress. That's what happens with the body."
Yeah, it happened to me just 2 days ago. January was living hell for us. I live in Southern California, and we had all the fires up in LA, which is about 2 hours north. But then we had a fire probably 20 miles north of us, and then one over here. They were like all over. And then my cats got fixed. They got spayed this other day. And it was so stressful because two kittens trying to keep them down. And I'm doing my strength training. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. And I even gave up alcohol for the month of January. I did dry January, so no wine for this girl. I'm gonna keep going because I know how good that is for me. But I was just sitting on the couch with my husband in the morning drinking coffee, and I just reached over here and my whole back went, and what the hell? That's not fair. And I thought about it, like, duh, I have been so stressed out and I'm trying to redo my website. It broke and all this stuff. And that's how it manifested. So I was, I laughed, which helped, but I'm living proof that stress can cause a problem. Even if you're doing everything right, you still got to be careful. Now you can't stop. There's things in our life we can't control. But if you can notice it and think it's happening, you can breathe and take a moment. And maybe when you recognize something and what it actually does, it might help you take some action into trying to reduce that stress if it's possible. Or, do some things that you can do to reduce the stress. Or realize it, laugh and stretch and get on with your life.
Yeah, but I think it's just that awareness too that, because a lot of
Totally.
people aren't aware that how big a stress, can play a role in physical health, mental health. And so
Yeah.
if we just build that awareness, then as you said, when that happened, you could laugh because you're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." You're not then fretting like, "How could this be happening? Because I'm doing everything perfectly." And,
Yeah.
and then again, that creates more stress. So, you know, building that awareness, being aware, and then being able to work with that, having those tools and knowing, okay, yep, this has happened. I know why it's happened. Well, what can I do? Can I ask other people for help? Can I delegate something off?
Yeah.
Can I just spend 10 minutes in the evening rather than sitting and watching TV? Can I just spend a bit of time doing some breath work or doing a few stretches, something that's
Yeah.
going to help calm my nervous system down?
You got it. You got it. Yep. It's easy in the moment and after it happens, but I know people are listening going, yeah, right. I've got so much stress that's out of my control, an elderly parent, a child that's having problems. I get it. It's hard, but if do what you can. Ask for help. I think that's the big thing you just said. Try to ask for help if you can.
Mm.
Reach out to
And
me.
yeah. And is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you would like to highlight around bone strength, osteoporosis, or even just resistance training and working out in general?
I think we covered most of it. As I said earlier, it might all sound overwhelming. Um, But you can I talk about, okay, we got to do a full body strength train. You got to work on your balance. You've got to keep that posture. You got to work on bone building. Oh, and don't forget your core stability. You can do that all in a 30-minute workout. I just filmed one was 25 minutes with no equipment. You can, while you're doing your bicep curls, you stand on one foot. When you're done with your bicep curls, do some work for your upper back and to stretch your chest to work on your posture. You can get down and do a quick core routine that's included in your strength workout. In between your strength moves, you can do their little heel drops where you just come up on your toes and then kind of bring your heels down with some force. It sends a ripple through your body going, uh-oh, I better start building some bones. My husband, actually, he's an engineer too. He hooked me up to an accelerometer. I'm gonna get geeky here for a second, but there's a gentleman named Wolf. It's a Wolf law that we need 4.2 times our body weight to get a bone building event. So our cells go, uh-oh, that impact was so much that I better do something. And he hooked me up to an accelerometer and we did some heel drops and that got up to 4.6. So heel drops work. Walking, standing still doesn't. Little light jumping, way above that. Running, of course, way above that. But if you, and so little jumps, if it hurts your joints, um, get that extra attention on strength training because your joints can't handle it. But you can get all that done in between your strength workouts. Do those little, maybe a little 10, just 10. 10. That's all you need. So you can get it all done. So try not to think it's overwhelming. And then consistency with all of this. Don't be a weekend warrior. This is where I see most of the problems. People go gung ho, start slow and build up slowly. Consistency over perfection. I'm doing this crazy workout is much, much better for your body than crazy workout than nothing, crazy workout than nothing. I'd rather do small workouts and then if you're stuck, I have an unstuck challenge, just 5 minutes. If you are so stuck, I tell people 5 minutes for 5 days, no more, no less. And then if you can get to that, 10 minutes for 5 days, no more. You're not allowed to do 15-minute workout. A lot of people do for 10 days, then 15, then 20. I have a member, Barbara, who got really stuck over the holidays. And she's now up to 20 minutes and she's so excited because it's creating that habit. It's remembering you're getting your body to remember how good you feel when you exercise. That's that reward connection that helps us infuse the habit. We've got the brain's got to go, oh, I want to do that again. And so building up nice and slow to where you try to feel like exercise, feel good. There are so many people that hate exercise, so you may never love to do it, but some things you just have to do, no matter what.
Like eating your vegetables.
Yes, exactly. I know. I know.
No, well, you bring up some, really good points. And I think that one about consistency is really the key because so many of us think we have to do an hour-long workout and we have to slog it out really hard. And then we push ourselves and we do something that we really don't want to do and we don't enjoy it and we don't want to do it again. We're like, we're done.
No, heck
But
no.
that small consistency over time, taking small steps, keeping your workouts shorter, but doing 3 shorter workouts per week rather than just one long one, you're going to get much better results in long term.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. And most of my workouts are now are 30 minutes. I'll go 45 if I'm resting longer in between my sets. But I typically, and they're doable. I mean, it's so much more doable. Now, if I go to a class, like if I'm going to a yoga class or a Pilates class or something, they're typically an hour, and that's fine. Because you're kind of relaxing a little bit in between too, and you're having fun with your friends, and that's perfect, especially if you love it.
Amazing. Now, before
Yeah.
we wrap up, I always love to ask my guests that if there's one piece of health advice that you could give to our listeners that they could go off and instigate straight away after listening to this podcast, what would it be?
Just one? Oh no. Okay. I have so many. I think that strength training piece is the one. Find a way to incorporate sort of muscle resistance into your life today. If you're just going to get up from your chair, you know, 3 times, just strength training is the secret to longevity. Without our muscle mass, we're going to lose the ability to do the things that we love, our independence. We're going to need help getting off the toilet. If you can't do that, you're getting off the pot. It's just some way to get over that fear of strength training. Google, I mean, go to YouTube, strength workouts for women over 50, and find one that's 5 minutes long and do that today.
Amazing. Now, before we finish up, where can our listeners reach out and connect with you?
Oh, I'd love that. I'm everywhere, Instagram, Facebook. I'm even on TikTok a little bit at Be Healthy Enough. That's it. Be Healthy Enough at Be Healthy Enough on Instagram, Facebook. My website's Be Healthy Enough. I'm redoing my website now, but you can take a look at that. I've got some resources for you. I'm on YouTube too. Be Healthy Enough on YouTube, and I have a lot of resources out there too. A lot on bone health too.
Amazing. Well, I'll link that all up in the show notes as well. So
Okay.
listeners can definitely head across there and all the links will be there too. But thank you so much for coming on the
You're
podcast
welcome.
today. I think this is a really important topic, especially for women and especially as we start aging. And as you said, no matter what age you're at, you can definitely start thinking about your bone health. And the earlier you do, the more preventative it is. But even if you are a little bit older, there's still time. There's still stuff that you can do.
Yes. Amen.